some stuff happened. Next day I got charged for murder and attempted murder.
California, living my life in California, getting it right in California, did life in California, stay prison, California, mama just called, California, where you at, fool? California, don't get tired in California, I run a marathon in California. Zatu, what's the deal? Today we're decked out, San Diego State. This is going to be a good one. So it ain't going to be too much of me. Let's get right to it, man. We're about to go visit San Diego State. Let's go.
Hello, my name is Tavo Vega. I'm a former incarcerated student here at San Diego State with Project Rebound. I'm a former lifer, did some 22 years. Before that, I was a high school dropout. I've been diagnosed with various mental disabilities, but now here I am in higher education.
My name is Cesar Lopez. I'm a student assistant here at Project Rebound. I started volunteering about 2 years ago, right after COVID, came back into on-campus sessions and really didn't know what Project Rebound had to offer, right? So I thought they would just help out with admissions, and I didn't really know the extent of other resources that were available to us.
My upbringing, coming up as a child, so I was born in Oakland. I spent the first 6 years of my life there. I was born to undocumented parents. 6 years old, we moved to Modesto, California. About after a year or two living in one house, we moved to another, different part of town. 9 years old, my dad passed away while we were in Modesto. So then for family support, we moved to Mexicali, Mexico, on my mom's side of the family. And that's when I got introduced to what real poverty is. Didn't really understand too much of my Mexican heritage, but I got introduced to it what the hardline, more conservative aspect of that upbringing of that side of my family is. And then we stayed there for about a year, experienced, like I said, extreme poverty, barely any running water and electricity, slept on dirt floors. And after a year, we moved to El Centro, California. We spent about 3 years in one apartment, and then we moved back to Cali, Mexico, spent there about 6 months. For the most part, crossing the border every morning, going to school over here in El Centro. And then we end up relocating back to El Centro, a different part of town. During this whole process, instability with family, for the most part, too Mexican in the US, not Mexican enough in Mexico. Bouncing around, trying to figure myself out. Mannerisms, different ways of clothing, different manners of speaking. I kind of caught up in trying to acclimate and live up to the expectations and standards of other people. I kind of lost my own sense of direction.
I found myself struggling with housing insecurity. I had gotten into a situation where I ended up living out of my car again. And through that situation, I had developed a relationship with Daniela Maya that worked here at the time. And in conversation, mentioned what I was going through. And she actually made some phone calls, got me situated with the economic crisis response team here on campus, which was not only available to me as a formerly incarcerated student, but just as a student, period. I emphasize that because I thought I wasn't aware of the support that was offered just simply by being a student. So that was one of the things that made me start to dig into what else could Project Rebound offer. That was not necessarily something that they offered directly, but them having that partnership with ECRT helped me to get to a point where I was able to focus back on my school. And for me, that was a very difficult situation to navigate because I served close to about 8 years in custody. So coming out, starting from scratch, getting back on my feet, starting to provide support for my son, even though I came out wanting to prioritize school, for me it wasn't very realistic to dedicate myself solely to school because I had to work more than 40 hours a week so that I can get myself into a position where I can support myself and support my kid.
But poverty, substance abuse, drug abuse, violence was around by mid-teens. I took my first drink, loved it. Fellas patted me on the back. This is in Mexico. I felt embraced. Got into my first fight. felt empowered, started getting patted in the back for that, getting acknowledged. At the same time, being a young boy at 9 years old, when my dad passed away, I felt that sense of having to be the man of the house. I didn't understand what it was, but I knew that I had to do something. So here I am looking around for guidance for the men. For the most part, it was a patriarchal, machista, be impulsive kind of attitude. Impose yourself, so I embraced it. And honestly, I knew what I was doing was wrong. I mean, every time I broke a window and I ran, I mean, that was an indication I knew what I was doing was wrong. But at that time, I felt that was what I needed to do. So I continued, got involved in gangs, continued, started abusing alcohol, got incarcerated in Mexicali, Mexico a few times, went to juvenile hall a few times, and then by the age of 18, I got incarcerated for attempted murder, some gang stuff, gang-related things. Incarcerated in county jail, got caught with some possession of weapons, ended up going to prison. Kind of got indoctrinated to the prison culture. By the time I was released at 21 years old, I was shooting up heroin, meth. I generally wanted something good for myself when I was parole, but I didn't participate in nothing productive, didn't learn anything. Walked out of the ticking time bomb, essentially.
So I wanted to start to work less hours so I can focus on school. That's what kind of really drove me to engage on campus. And for me, Project Rebound opened up that door. So that was kind of like my gateway. One of my first events that I did was tabling alongside Tavo Vega, who's our outreach coordinator. And him and I came into SDSU around the same time, but I hardly knew him, hardly ever knew anything about Project Rebound. I didn't know that they were offered in different CSU campuses and that there was a variety of resources that we can draw from, Department of Rehabilitation. So in this tabling event, I was able to learn more because I had to essentially educate those people that came up that were interested about what Project Rebound was. Me, even though I was a Project Rebound student, which, you know, it's a program that focuses on helping formerly incarcerated students like myself. So that's where I really started to learn. Okay, I started to learn the little details, you know, John Irwin, founded in 1967. All those little things that kind of seem like insignificant, but now the more and more that I get involved and to this role where I'm now even getting into roles of activism and advocacy, I'm starting to see the value and like what it means to have barely been started in 1967 and to barely be started here at SDSU in 2016, 2017. You know, so we're relatively young and we face a lot of different pushback from both administration, campus, legislation. So starting to navigate some of those issues and start to, as we try to grow the program and be able to offer more resources for our students, it's something that I've definitely had to step back and really immerse myself in what it is that PR means.
Spent about 86 days out, got incarcerated. I was only supposed to serve 9 months parole violation. And then my parole officer told me I was actually going to get released a month after. Now I know it was going to be at the time I didn't know, but it was going to be my daughter. It was a ticking time. I didn't understand my emotions. I just lashed out in anger like usual. Got released from MATSAG as I was about to get transferred back to CDCR. Some stuff happened. Next day I got charged for murder and attempted murder. Sat in solitary confinement for a few years while I was fighting my attempted murder charges. Caught a few more cases, pending cases while I was there. And eventually I took a deal with a couple of my co-defendants and serving a life sentence. Got committed to a life sentence.
For a lot of us, Tavo, a lot of us are very passionate. Anthony, some of the guys that I've gotten to work with here at the SDSU office, these guys are very passionate about what they do. From the time that an inmate reaches out, writes us a letter, you know, we understand what it feels like to have that uncertainty at the other end of that fence, you know, and to not know what kind of support, what are you gonna do, what plan, like who plans, you know. A lot of us really come out here and don't really know what's going to happen. We know what we want to happen. We know that we want to do better. We want to get back on our feet. And, you know, a lot of times we struggle with a game plan and with a support system. So having that opportunity to land in a place like this where we have a support system, it's definitely, it's given me a circle of friends and professionals that are pushing me to continue to grow.
It's probably a few years after starting my life sentence, probably my mid to late 20s. I was already taking college courses. Education was, I was actually introduced to education a little bit under duress. I had a homeboy there on the yard. He was telling me, go to college. And I was kind of like, for what? I'm never going home. And just to get him off my back, I told him, go ahead and sign me up. He was kind of being a pest about it. A couple of days later, I got to go to education. And it was more of probably the code, the man, you know, honor what you say, what you're going to do. So I went to class, registered for 2 courses. And when I got the 2 A's at the end of the semester, there was a sense of empowerment. I really felt good about myself. Enrolled 4 more classes and kept going. And little by little, my mind started growing out of like the barrio, the neighborhood, the gang stuff. And I was starting to see the bigger picture. I was starting to see there's a probably better quality of life. You know, there's more to life than what I was living at the time. At the same time, you know, part of it is manipulation. You know, lifer, I had to go to all these self-help programs, get chronos, get ducats. Did I really believe in what I was being taught at the time? No, not really. But it took time. It took several years until it was probably 2006. I think it was 2006. I was in the yard, and the light bulb. It was one of those, you know, what you call it, aha moments. Light bulb goes off, whatever you want to call it. And it was like, I was the issue. I was a problem. I got to stop blaming the environment. Got to start blaming the people that snitched on me. I got to start making the choices now. Take ownership of my life. And I committed. Like, I want to do something. I relapsed a few more times. I still didn't understand emotional aspect of myself. You know, I was still rationalizing, well, I'm not shooting heroin no more. I'm just snorting. I went through that process for a while. And in 2011, that's kind of more of I committed. Like, I said, no more selling, no more using, no more. And you know, and just spoke to a couple of my homeboys, and it's like, this is what's going on. I believe there's a skill set actually in having to communicate with people. At the same time, be consistent in what you do. And I was honest, like, hey, I need to get home. You know, I got a kid. She was born, I was in county. This is what I want in life. And for the most part, I mean, there's people probably talking shit. I'm pretty sure there is. But for the most part, I was good. It was ironic because, you know, up until then, I was that individual. I was a bit of a pressure cake, doing what other people wanted me to do or what they expected me to do, and what I thought would give me good grace. And from that moment, when I spoke to the fellas, it's like, from being a follower, I actually became a leader. It was a trip. I didn't expect this. I didn't plan on it. But after that, you know, I was very involved in college in there already. I was actually a tutor and a clerk in there for Tavo Vega Community College at Ironwood, and doing self-help programs. And I think something happened where, I don't know if I just did something, I overcame the fear, probably the fear of what other people want to do. But after that, people started confiding in me, asking to me for help, and you know, I started accommodating them what they needed to do, and then we took it from there.
Yeah, so I grew up in a neighborhood in the South Bay called Old Thai. When I came over here, I was about 6 years old, and I came from Mexico, from Tijuana, particularly, specifically. And when we crossed over, you know, I was a Spanish-speaking kid. My parents were both undocumented. My school, my elementary school, taught in Spanish. So for me, a lot of the school experience was not what the typical American student would have experienced. You know, I grew up in an area that was predominantly Mexican, so a lot of that came with, you know, we were in a lower socioeconomic status. It was trailer parks, apartments, graffiti, all on the way down to elementary school, to middle school, to high school. It was something that I grew up with on a daily basis, seeing, and I really didn't understand the effect that was having on me as I was growing up. You know, to see the homies, you know, outside hanging out, daily, I started to see some of these things and normalize them. So as I grew up, that gang culture was very much an influence on me. I was one of those kids that didn't join the gang. I was able to get through high school before I joined a gang, and it felt like I had made it out. When I got out of high school, I started to think that I would make it past a 3-year mark or a 5-year mark, and I got myself into community college.
I mean, what would I say to a youngster coming up the system when it comes to higher education, worried about what other people are thinking, like the homies, the fellas, people they probably grew up with? I'll say this: it's like whatever people say, that's probably don't. I believe that's not what they truly believe. They could talk, they could put us down, but generally, I think they're just saying what they need to say to make themselves feel good at the time. I was that individual. I used to see somebody walk into the chapel, walking across the yard with books, doing something positive, and I was that one talking down upon them. But in reality, inside, that's what I wanted. I wanted that peace what they had. But I'll say this to the youngster: education comes in various forms. You don't have to pick up necessarily a book to get educated. Some of my schooling came from the homies, from the older individuals that are coming around. You know, the basic principles. You know, show up early to somewhere. Don't show up on time. Treat people on the way up. Be mindful of the way you treat people on the way up, because these are the people you're going to see on the way down. And I still live by this. And here I am at SDSU, living with these same principles. But I'll tell youngsters, like, you educate yourself, you start setting yourself apart. That's where the leadership comes in, actually, because you start learning about yourself. You start learning about composure, maturity, wiser choices. You're more mindful of others. You understand what the other person, how or what's making the other person do the things they do, which I consider emotional intelligence. Yes, it's very challenging, you know, especially in the teenage years. You know, we care too much what our identity is. But it's reassuring that here I am, you know, I can sit there in front of them, and it's not just me. There's thousands of us in the same shoes that they're in. You know that it'll get better. But again, it takes a lot more courage to stand out than to follow everybody else.
When I was 16 years old, I got kicked out of my house, and that was, for me, that was one of the things that really changed the direction that I was going, because I had all this gang influence around me. I hadn't joined the neighborhood, and I wasn't planning on getting into it because I didn't agree with a lot of the ideals. But when I got kicked out, I went to every single store at the mall, and I vividly remember that whole situation. You know, I go out, I apply at every single store that was open, and everybody's asking me for a adult parent signature. Couldn't get it because I had just gotten kicked out of my house. So that led to me selling drugs. Within a couple of days of being kicked out on the streets, sleeping in my local elementary school underneath the lunch tables, it didn't take long for me to have a backpack full of drugs. And even though the time that I lasted out on the streets was short-lived, you know, it was only a few weeks, but by the time I was back in my parents' house, I was this little 15, 16-year-old kid with a backpack full of drugs. And at that point, I was getting fronted. I couldn't just go back and be like, here's back your little couple pounds that you fronted me. It didn't work like that. So that kind of was the beginning of where I started to go in that different direction. I was able to get through high school because I got kicked out, went to Learning Center, graduated from the Learning Center because it was more independent work. I was just given the packets and then submitted them. So I was able to get through that, in part because I was kicked out and moved into what I would call, you know, my crosstowns part of town, and I didn't really mess with too many people. So I focused on the school, got that done, got myself into community college, and at that point, that's where I started to think that I was gonna make it.
How would I compare and contrast hustling in the streets versus hustling in higher education? This is what I call it. I call it transferable skills. What I learned as being a drug dealer, an addict, a gang member, I apply them in higher education. I apply them out in the community. It's no different. When I hit the streets, just like when you hit the yard, what are the first things you do? You want to know who's working canteen, so you get in front of the line. You want to learn who's working the laundry. You want new clothes. You want to know who's a barber. You know, who's working the kitchen. It's the same concept when I came out here. I went straight to first check, went to the bank, and I contacted one person in there, and now that person became my main contact. You know, I go to the store, I go to gas stations, mechanics, I should say. You know, I got one person. I got them on my speed dial. Same thing in education. Got one contact person for the most part in the registrar's office, admissions, financial aid, all these various departments. It's the same thing. And then you acknowledge them, you thank them afterwards. It's like in prison, somebody does something for you, what do? Give them a honey bun. The honey bun isn't gonna compensate the person, right? But it's the attention, it's the acknowledgement you do, it's the sense of appreciation. It's the same thing out here. So again, it's transferable skills, man. It's the same grind. You're just applying to something different. But in this case, in higher education, in the legit world, you know, obviously there should be a little more peace of mind because you don't gotta be looking over our shoulder.
At 18, I ended up catching one of my first petty cases. It was petty, but they stacked up about 9 charges. So I ended up signing for a wobbler that was reduced to a misdemeanor after I completed probation, but that stained my record. So that was my first slap on the hands. That was my first experience. Spent a couple nights in jail. And I was able to really, I took it like as a wake-up call and started focusing on that community college. Thought I was gonna get through it. And unfortunately, when I was 23 years old, got involved into a situation with my kid brother where I ended up killing a man. So that was a moment for me where it felt like they pulled the rug underneath me. And for a long time, I had stayed away from the gang. Once I went into the prison system, it was very much a part of my survival. I went in facing 5 life sentences. My maximum exposure at the time was 150 years. So when I first started to fight my case and go through the criminal process, I had to accept, you know, as I saw everything that was going on around me, I had to accept that I was going to spend the rest of my life in prison. So when I finally accepted it, I went into a depression. It lasted a few months of me, you know, sleeping a lot, working out a lot, and I got to the point where I finally said, you know, forget it, let's do it. And started getting involved into the politics side of things, started getting involved in the dope gang side of things, and the gang, prison gang, doing things that had I had that date, you know, hanging over my head still, I think I very likely would have avoided getting involved in the mix. But those type of, you know, that experiencing that and feeling that I knew that I was never coming home really put me into a different stage where, you know, I really accepted some of those things that were indoctrinated into us. I started to not just believe it, but I started to also spread it, and, you know, spread some of those ideologies amongst other younger homies that were coming in after us. And when you go in with those type of charges, it kind of catapults you into certain positions where, you know, other younger kids that have similar backgrounds kind of idolize that. So I was also at a young age where some of that got to my head too, and I enjoyed some of that, right? So it took a while for me to go through different incidents in there where I finally realized how much I was being used. And I finally realized that my values and my principles didn't align with the ideologies that I was pushing.
So what is Project Rebound? So Project Rebound is a program that helps formerly incarcerated individuals. It was started in 1967 by John Irwin, but now in 2023, we're in 15 established CSUs, but there's also been, I think they've just approved 3 or 4 more Project Rebounds in a couple more CSUs. So what do we do? So Project Rebound kind of functions a little bit different depending on the CSUs, depending on the rules and they got going on there, and then the MOUs, memorandums of understandings. But for the most part, they serve the same thing. You know, we go into prisons, we talk about the transferable requirements, how to kind of expedite sometimes your degrees. We connect you with resources on and off campus, help you submit the application process. In my case, when I paroled, I didn't even know how to use a phone. So we're very mindful of technology, and then how some people may be challenged with it. You know, we're for the most part first generation students, don't understand this whole process. But here at SDSU, we actually go out into different departments and we share our experiences. Not in a manner of glamorizing or justifying or making excuses, but to help other people understand, the faculty here, that our lived experience has value. So we want to use our lived experience with academic knowledge to flourish. And look, as a formerly incarcerated individual, for the most part, you should never come out of pocket. There's so many resources out there that are going to compensate you, pay for your higher education. There's many of us here right now in our master's program, and we're not coming out of pocket. There's resources available for us out there. Another thing, disability, psychiatric, mental health concerns. Being incarcerated is not a disability, but the experience that we went in through there, can create some kind of disability. Or, the disabilities were created in childhood growing up, but because of those disabilities, a lot of us are getting resources. So take advantage of them. And here at Project Rebound, and as well as all the other programs throughout the CSU system, we'll help you with that.
And I served all my time and was able to get into education. For me, I went into a non-program, program failure yard. And when I got there, I didn't think there was going to be very many opportunities for us as far as education, but thankfully I was able to get into the education side of things through the high school program. I got into college over time, and that's where I really met and interacted with people that treated me human. It had been years already by that point that, I hadn't even been called by my name in a long time. So I had forgotten who I was, I had forgotten that there was a caring person, there was somebody different from the person that was created behind the walls. I had forgot about that, and going into some of these college classrooms, I got to engage with professors and some of the staff there that treated me human, people that shook my hand and genuinely gave me affection without knowing me, I was able to be myself. When we walked into the classrooms, we were able to put the politics, leave the politics at the door, leave the racism at the door, all of those things that we carried with us because we were in there, but we didn't necessarily believe in. It just gave me a space where I can just leave all that stuff behind and take my mind somewhere else. So to me, education kind of became an escape. I got more and more immersed as I got a job assignment working in education, and so that helped for me to actually be constantly in those offices, and then I would be able to bring that stuff back to the homies. And at that point, there was very few of us that were in the education program, and we were able to start to attract and essentially recruit more homies into coming to the college program, and start to spread that amongst the leadership, and to start to see some of the value of getting the homies certified and educated. So to me, I kind of started, I guess, in there to try to push that advocacy for us to be able to lean on education. And then once I came out, I didn't really expect to get involved in advocacy in any way. I didn't really know what to expect. I was expecting to go into blue collar work. Didn't think that university was really gonna be feasible for me. And I didn't think that I was capable, honestly. I think that was a big thing that was holding me back. Since I had barely spent any time in the classroom in high school, I didn't know that I can get an A in a classroom. I didn't know that I can do some difficult math problems. And there was a lot of fear that I had because I felt incompetent. I felt that I wouldn't be able to compete with some of these other kids that I was going to be around. So to me, that was a huge challenge, growing up poor, being in schools that didn't really prepare us to go into a university level academic world. It was intimidating. It was scary. I didn't have parents that could walk me through the process. I didn't have a financial support to pay for that education. So there was a lot of stressors of unknowns that were discouraging. Dealing with the imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome was a real thing. I have all these identities within me, gang member, drug dealer, drug addict, you name it. I had this impression of myself that, like, when I came onto campus and I'm like a student, it was hard for me to really embrace that I could now identify as a student, and I was no longer having to identify as some of those things that I had previously embraced so much.
What would I say with a bunch of kids, trying to inspire them? I really don't give advice. I don't give suggestions. I just share my story for the most part. And I tell them what I went through. I was a lost kid at the time. I got myself into a lot of trouble. I wanted the love, wanted the affection, and I still do now. What was different not back then, what is different now, is the way I satisfy it. I call them human needs. I still want to feel important. I still want to be loved. I still want to love other people. There's still a sense of need to survive. So that's why I go to work, make a paycheck. There's nothing wrong with it. However, it's how we do that. And it's friendships. It's collaborations. It's support. It's who we surround ourselves with, people with. And I'll be honest with you, I still mess with the homies. I'm still around the homies. But I set boundaries with them. So when they come my way, and I've been consistent, I've been doing what I've been doing for years. So they're aware that I'm genuine in what I do. But there is a possibility to still be around the peers you grew up with. There's this idea that we got to run away, we got to move to a different environment, that we got to break complete ties from everybody. Maybe for the short term until get our thoughts and our priorities straight. We probably do got to remove ourselves. Well, with me, I'm still around them. I still feel a sense of satisfaction. I'm of service. I'm doing things. I have my own way of putting in work now. But it is gratifying. And again, you don't have to run away from everything, but we got to change comes in here, really. You got to get this straight up in here. And here I am at the worst. Do I believe in second chances? Not necessarily. I believe in all the chances you could get. For me, it's probably already been 20, 30 chances I've gotten. And that's how many times it took for me to, I was stubborn. That's how entrenched I was in my way of thinking. But here I am now. Look at this. Look at my little shrine in my office. From being in solitary confinement, almost ended up on death row. I got my own office now at San Diego State University. As many chances you can get, but just learn from all those mistakes. That's the key thing. Learn from any mistake you make.
For me, if I could go back and give a piece of advice to my younger self, it's, if the next man can do it, you can do it too. I always challenge myself with that. When I look around me and I see some of these people around me, a lot of them are 10 years younger than me, some of them even more. Some of them are my age, some of them are even older. And I'm like, if that person can do it, why the hell can't I? If I can put in the work, if I have the ability to do it, now I have to have the will and the follow through to do that. So don't be afraid to take on some of these challenges just because they're challenging. If the next man can do it, you can do it too. With that said, man, I wish you well. You guys, there's a lot of potential that we have within us that we leave untapped. And there's a lot more in there that we can offer ourselves. There's a lot more that we can offer our loved ones. There's a lot more we can offer the world, man. As long as we got another day in front of us, we got work to put in. Don't be afraid to bring out that best version of yourselves. Much love.
So here we go. I introduced a little bit about who I am, but now you're gonna see what my new playground is. The prison yard was where I used to screw around. Now you're gonna go see my new stomping grounds. So let's go on a tour. First, I'm gonna go into the Project Rebound, the lounge. This is our little safe space we have. We have snacks, go chill, take a nap. It's kind of where we socialize, but this is our safe space as formerly incarcerated students, Project Rebound. We socialize. And for some of us, so as sad as it may be, this is probably the safest space where we feel more comfortable. Sadly, a lot of our trauma started at home, but right here, we all relate. There's certain things we don't even have to speak about, but we have a mutual understanding with one another here. So this PSFA 100, which is professional student, we're actually student affairs, campus diversity. So this is a big area. So for the most part, our executive director's office over there, the project meeting manager's over here. When we come over here, so kind of walk in. So if you actually come into the office, if you come into the front of this building, it kind of looks like we're in the basement, but we're actually in the front, in the first floor. So you come in here, and there's a little area. It's summertime right now. So we just had a couple of students in here, but they probably took out the class. Usually we have this all filled up with snacks. We have lockers over on the other side. We've got computers. We're actually in the process of getting a few more. But again, there's students that come here, take a nap in between class. For the most part, us Rebound students, we're older, we got kids. So when we come to the campus, we're pretty much on a mission, go straight to class. Sometimes we got 2 classes in a day, so we got to come in here in between, and this is where we just chill. There's a lot of noise, so we got the windows closed right now. We got fresh air coming in. And this is where we have meetings, where we got guest speakers, we have other collaborations with other Identity Center organization. It's a program, but then we also created, we got it up and started actually, a couple of us, Project Rebound Student Alliance. So in the Project Rebound Student Alliance, it's Rebound students, but it's also students from all throughout SDSU from various academic backgrounds. And the idea is really to foster awareness, so the students are aware of our experience as just as involved students, and it's also for us to learn about other cultures, other people, students from academic backgrounds. It's really create self-awareness. Many of the students are going to go out, they're going to become taxpayers, voters, employers. So, hopefully, when they're at that position, they have to vote or make certain decisions. They'll have this in mind. They'll understand how certain laws may affect us as just as involved individuals. So now we're just going to go out the side of the building, and then we'll head out to where more of the administrations and other departments are at that we tend to work with, and that are actually essential as incoming students. To come into the building, to the Project Rebound area, the main entrance on the 2nd floor. We're down at the 1st floor, so you gotta kind of go down. We kind of make light of it, make it feel like sometimes they got it down in the basement, but it's just a running joke. Get you off guard. Everywhere I go, you gotta run around. And it's ironic. These golf carts, obviously, they're used by, they're not janitors, I forget what they're called, but maintenance facilities, something like that. A lot of them are just as involved too. And it's not so much that I stereotype. You should just get a sense. It's like one addict knows another addict. I see somebody's like, what's going on? And start building a rapport, and sure enough, a lot of them are just as involved. So there's a lot of, probably in every school it happens, but there's a lot. You see head in the hall, there's a lot of politics. So we try to be mindful of what some of these buildings, what they represent. The Native Resource Center kind of encourages not to promote it, because it kind of resembles the missionaries back in the days, where oppression and a lot of abuse happened with natives. I'll go through here. This is my way of making the walk. Well, let's go real quick, because you're gonna see how it's really there's a lot of activity going on right now. So at SDSU, probably the main picture, on postcards and the website, is this whole area. On you know what it's called, but so for the most part right here is where they have a lot of tents, a lot of activities. So that's supposed to be the front of the university, but it's like the main entrance. Down that way it's called Turtle Pond. If you were to Google it or look it on the maps, it really doesn't come up. But down there we have a lot of events for PR, a lot of shade. That's where we have our PR graduation down there. And right here during the day you'll have all kinds of student organizations, fraternities, having tabling events. For the most part, you know, promoting what they have going on, or they want to do collaborations or recruiting students. Right now, it's new student orientation. So for the most part, we PR we have our tables out here. For the most part, new students. A lot of them are freshmen straight out of high school. There isn't a whole bunch of just as involved students there coming in, but we're for the most part transfer students at Project Rebound. We're older individuals, and then they're assigned certain days. So, and then matter of fact, many of our current rebounders, we actually met them here in these kind of events where they'll see the handcuffs or they actually see the tattoos. And again, it's one of those things, you just probably takes one or no one type of deal. And you start asking questions. You get admitted to SDSU. This is everybody has to, for the most part, go through this process called orientation. So right now, there's probably hundreds, probably thousands of students right now going through orientation, sitting in classes for days, or hours I should say, throughout, and they're getting schooled on everything about counseling, technology, just SDSU culture. So they're so right now about 11:30, we're all supposed to come out, start setting up. So when all the new students coming in, they can come and see us. So here's our table right here. I'm actually supposed to be here in about an hour, so this is the main library. This is like 4 floors. On the other side they have the tech. So if we're a little bit tech challenged, you can go to the other side and they'll assist you personally with setting up your computer, explain things, how things, you know, starting apps on devices. And there's sometimes during exams they have the library's open 24 hours. I've been in there till 2 or 3 in the morning. And it's a trip. It's a whole different environment, a whole different vibe in there. Not once did I fall asleep in there. It's just everybody's on the grind. You just feed off of each other. This is the main entrance. I guess before it used to be the entrance over here, but now you go underneath. So that's just it leads you to different directions of the library. But for the most part, that's the main. That's probably the only entrance actually. You went through there, down there. So it's part of the library down that way, and then you come in and you come up this way. So now we're gonna go to the food court area. There's actually several spaces where they sell munchies and goodies. For the most part, it's like one of the main ones here. They got like 10, 7, 8 fast food restaurants in here. So it's like any other place, you always gotta be mindful of the time. There's certain times you do not want to come in here, you get packed. It's just like parking. There's certain times in certain parking structures you don't want to get. Come in here, you order, sit down. There's a bunch of tables over down that way. Just for the most part, there's always space around there to eat. But it does get packed. It's ironic, like how much is Project Rebound immersing how we're immersing ourselves into SDSU culture. I've sat and ordered, and I've had people, the workers, ask me, "What is Project Rebound?" And I'll tell them, before I was incarcerated, and they're like, "Hey, my brother was incarcerated." I'll give my card, or just reach out to me. So here we go, collaborations. How the collaborations we have Project Rebound within SDSU. So for the most part, Project Rebound will pay for your books. One of the perks. So what you will do is you'll fill out, we'll send out an application, what you need in here. This is the first floor. But on the second floor, we'll go over real quick. Got the swag. So about once a year, twice a year, they'll have like 20-30% off, so you might want to wait then.
She's too young.
But if you can see, go up to the top, that's where you go pick up your books. So when PR pays your books or pick your own books, you just go right up there. We already have staff, they're fully aware of Project Rebound. They'll pretty much just hand you the book and they'll just charge Project Rebound. We facilitate the process, but they're fully aware of who we are as a program. technology, MacBooks, get about $100 off. You're a student, and they'll set up your whole device, or you can buy it and just hook it all up. Download all the apps that you downloaded. Get everything going for you. We're talking about transferable skills. We're gonna hit some of these. We're gonna walk by some of these. The main buildings you probably want to know as a student while you're incoming, but at the same time as you're a current student. One is the registrar's office. The registrar's office is over here. And so this whole section has to do with student services. So this is the main thing. When you got questions about financial aid, your application process, if you can't get through Zoom or phone calls, this is where you want to come. By the way, we've advocated. I've been into these buildings so many times, like they already pretty much know me once I walk into the door, because I'm for the most part the one that's helping the student come in. You just come in, just tell them, this is why I need help. Well, just go over there. We call it the glass house. So for the most part, you come in here, they go straight in, you got student assistants in there. If they can't answer your questions, they call their higher ups. But I go in there all the time and ask about students, what their status is, what's needed, what's missing. It's called the Office of Admissions. And they have certain hours, so you got to be careful. You don't want to drive all the way up here and then they're closed. Then you got the Office of Registrar as well. And if you have peers that are not aware of Project Rebound and haven't got in contact, just let them know. For the most part, they are aware. We'll go down this way. They're aware of Project Rebound. We have many these departments. They'll give us a call over at our office, and then we'll come over here with the student, and we realize they identify as formerly incarcerated. You're talking about your finance, your tuition, why you have holds. Probably the two main offices you want to go to is financial aid, and then what is it? Student account services, I believe. We'll go upstairs. So financial aid office is probably the most challenging office to find. You would think it would be the one that has most access to, but I'll show you. So that's student account services. That's where you want to go. And sometimes if you go, well, we used to call it the web portal, but now it's My SDSU, where you got your account. For the most part, it will not. For the most part, it tells you why you have debt or why you have holds, but it's not always fully clear what it is or where the money's going or where the money's coming from. You go in there, they'll break it all down for you. Financial aid, we can go. Let's go. We can just go up. I think this will be cool. So financial aid office, there isn't really a clear sign. I don't know why. Maybe because they're the ones that seek help or complaints from. So they are actually on the 3rd floor, and to get up there, I think you just got to go up to the elevator. I'm not aware of any other another way up. So we go up. So you come up. Now here we are coming out on the 3rd floor. So again, there's no identifying sign saying there's a financial aid office. I don't know why. It's really just called Student Financial Center. And this is where you come in and you ask for help. And for the most part, they'll guide you through the process. Financial office. Hello. We're just doing a little documentary, a little YouTube video on how to get around campus. Cool. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Probably the biggest frustration dealing with the financial aid office is trying to get in contact with them. As you can imagine, there's thousands of students trying to get a hold of the building every semester, throughout the whole semester. But once you get a hold of them, for the most part, they'll answer your questions. So another thing I want to stress, when somebody's submitting their Cal State apply, always apply for EOP. I know EOP inside in prison system, it has a negative connotation. It means something different, but it means something different out here. For the most part, it's equal opportunity. I don't even know what it stands for, but always apply in your Cal State apply. Always. For the most part, they help marginalized, low-income students. And as formerly incarcerated, we are part of that minoritized community. And so in the website, probably just say EOP, but they just evolved and they're having a collaboration with various groups in there. So now it's EOP-OS, and their office is over here, and they are very aware of Project Rebound. Most of our students are actually EOP members. And they get a certain accommodation assistance, and they're actually allies here. So You come down up in this way. You got staff in here that have hired rebounders. They go out of the way, they invite us to events so we can network with other members from SDSU and off of campus. So they did change the EOP, outreach and success. So for the most part, this is where it's at. Always apply, Cal State apply, EOPS. EOP, hello. We're just doing a little walk around, video just to show where all the office is at for Project Rebound. Thank you. This is where I spend actually a lot of my time as a staff member, running around these departments trying to figure out what's going on with some of our students. So situation, some of our students, for the most part, have to work. Got parents, so they got to be attending to their responsibilities off campus. So for a lot of times they call me, build rapport with a lot of these staff members, various departments. So I'll just come in and ask, provide the red ID number. For the most part, give me information, or if it's a little too personal, then I just provide the number of this perspective or the student rebounder, and then they'll get in contact with them and they'll resolve the matter. So again, we talk about transferable skills, walking around the yard, same concept. Things are just mind your own business, don't get involved in things that don't concern you, and then speak up, be assertive, be clear, follow up with people, like I said, show up early to your scheduled meetings, and you always, everything's quick. Be clear, be clear what the intention is. And for the most part, people here, 99% has been very helpful. There's still certain issues that gotta get addressed by here at SDSU. Yeah, they do. Things can improve, but for the most part, we have almost 20 students coming in for fall 2023. We got about almost 60 current students. We're doing pretty good. Talking about transferable skills. Right now, last year, 4 or 5 of us got into one master's program all together. We did interviews with the directors, shared our lived experience. They accepted us all. This year, and that's just under one master's program. Now we have several more coming into the same program this year, where you get licensures, even with criminal records. They're willing to embrace us in and help us get our licensure, and they're going to advocate for us when we got to go through, for the most part, board of behavioral science or whatever department organization we got to go through. So yeah, many of these faculty are very open to those of us that have these type of lived experiences. You got the vet's office. I was just in here actually. Got a prospective student, it's a vet. I was just in here. You ever get in trouble? Principal's office. It's right here. There's no sign, you can see it, but right there where the little fire alarm is at, that's the student rights and responsibilities office. It's the principal's office. You get in trouble, you'll find up in there. This is what they call the student union. A lot of events are being held here the whole year. This is where we had our rebound filming up in the theater, where Rebound highlighted the struggles and the challenges of 2 Rebound students coming out of the carceral system and their journey into higher education and dealing with disabilities and stigmas and family. Upstairs you got the theater, and then you got Montezuma Hall. That's where they put thousands of people, probably 1,000 people in there, a couple hundred. Got Aztec lanes in here. I think as a student you get 1 or 2 or something like that for free, a lane. Come in here and socialize. A lot of us in the PR, we come in here, hang out, kind of get away. Sometimes we celebrate somebody's accomplishments. Probably not even so much about the bowling, it's more about the socializing with peers. And 2 different venues. You got the theater, you got Montezuma Hall.
And I say that because I know that sometimes my email, it goes real deep. 500 emails, right? Things get lost. And
This part of orientation. I think those are the parents actually. Those are the parents of students getting schooled on how to manage the websites, SDSU websites. So on this side of the student union, they have a lot of the offices on the second, third. I think on the top one is, I don't know if it's the fourth. But this is where like a lot of the commuter centers at. Got different offices where it has to do with student-oriented or focused events or leadership roles. You come in, when you register your student organization. So I tend to come in here. A lot. Talk to the staff. I think there's like 3 gyms. There's a small one right here. That one has no shower. There's a gym. And then there's the main, which is the ARC. And when you pay your fees as a student, the fees automatically cover the gym. So you got access to the gym pretty much every day. And there's actually a couple of us rebounders right now. We go over there, we go down. We go at 6:15 in the morning. We show up in the gym almost 5 days a week for the most part. We go in there and work out. On the hiring note, we actually reach out to HR. How does that look like for us? And they pretty much said as long as the conviction has nothing to do with putting any population on jeopardy here on campus, they'll hire you. You got more food items over, restaurants, fast food. You got Chipotle, Habit. You got more pizza over here. The undergrad and the master's program, their enrollment process is different. For the undergrad, you pretty much go at Cal State Apply, and you go through that process, and then SDSU will contact you. With the master's program, you still apply through Cal State Apply, and just like the PhD as well, you go through the Cal State Apply process, but then you reach out to the master's program directly, and they have a different process, and they're all a little bit different. So, as a matter of fact, sometimes it's cheaper to park somewhere. For the most part, you can come and park on campus, but again, this is one of the things you got to manage your time. There's some of these parking structures. If you go park in them in a certain area, especially if you're like right in the middle, and then on the floor you're at, it's not the exit out to the street, you get stuck into up to an hour. So you got to know how to get here on time. Sometimes you got to leave. I've had to leave classes 10 minutes early, so I get into my car before the traffic hits. But for the most part, a lot of students actually park off of campus, where the parking is free, and they ride the trolley in. So it's much easier. You just saw the trolley, now you got the buses. For the most part, this is where the buses come and go. That's another thing. So a prospective student coming in, or even already a current rebounder, sometimes, because one of the challenges we have when we're incarcerated and we're taking college courses, we only take what's being offered, right? So then and a lot of us come out as sociology majors, business, social behavioral science. So we come out here thinking that's what we got to pursue. But once a lot of our students actually come in and they start they're starting to interact in the community, they're starting to identify what their true passion is, where they could be, get some financial stability, then they want to change their majors. But one of the things I do is when a prospective comes, I go, look, are you serious? Is this what you really want? Because you're going to spend a lot of time and resources chasing one major and then realize something else. So what I do a lot is actually I find out what the major they really want, and connect them. Even if they're still in Rising Scholars down at community college, connect them to professors or faculty in general and staff, and they'll sit down with them and talk to them a lot of time, and they'll help them, because the website is one thing, the catalog says another, but not until you actually sit down possibly with the staff that understand what's really going on. Sometimes they help them fast track their degree, and they'll explain to them how to get in. And a lot of our students actually, it's networking, again, transferable skills. You introduce one person to the other, they network, they build rapport, they help each other out. Faculty, how you doing? Good morning. They help each other out. Obviously, some professors might want good numbers, right? Rack up the numbers. Graduates, A's and stuff. We actually have several rebounders living right here in Wesley House. So Wesley House is a public housing, low income. It is a waiting list, but there's actually several rebounders in there right now. And some Rising Scholars actually living in there. One of the rebounders had a birthday. She had a little party get together back here. So, two things that's going to be essential when you become a student. It's your health, or your record of your health, and if you self-disclose disability. So it used to be called Student Ability Success Center, SASE, but they just changed it. A little bit of politics. They had or I guess there's some conflict. People didn't agree that it was called an ability when they should be saying disability, sense of empowerment, own who you are. But this is where the office is at. And here, many of our rebounders, we are consumers of SASE. Well, I'll call it SASE for now, but we get special accommodations. In my case, when I'm doing exams in class, like Scantron, one of my things is I'm hypervigilant. Every time a student gets up, I look up. And then by the time I get back down, I'm looking, trying to refocus what the question is. Somebody else gets up to turn in their Scantron. I look back up. I'm literally either the last or second to the last person to turn in my Scantron. Almost every time we do in-person exams. That's because of my disability. But because I'm a consumer of SASE, part of the accommodations is they give me extra time to do my exam. They ask me if I want to go to a secluded area, be by myself so I won't have no distractions. But part of me is developing on my coping skills is to stay there and learn how to be focused. I'm still struggling with it, but for the most part, yeah, it takes me, I'm pretty much the last one to turn in my exams, but I'm acing them.
Bro, did you see American Cholo was running for councilman where he lives? Or he got elected?
Did he?
Yeah, that's pretty good. That could be you, bro. I can picture you being a council member in San Diego.
So there's several offices here. Again, accommodation SASE. It's up in, I think it's in the second or third floor. They are aware of rebound. So for the most part, what we do is we actually enroll the student into DOR, Department of Rehabilitation, and then we have a collaboration with them. We did a whole lot of networking, helping counselors understand what disabilities and how does that look like for somebody that was formerly incarcerated. I've been diagnosed. I've been about 5 different evaluations. Been diagnosed, like I said, 6 different things every time I go. So I have a unit of understanding, study psychology, and then even in prison, where as a lifer, we're going through the whole process. Our assessments the assessment tools was not compatible for our population. So this is something I carry out over here. So for the most part, DOR. Now, there was rebounders that were denied DOR services before, and then when we did some of this advocacy, helping the DOR counselor understand what's going on with what goes on with us, now they got approved those rebounders. So now they need full services. But then the DOR, what we did is DOR has a good relationship with SDSU, so they'll, for the most part, apply them to SASE straight. So they'll use a diagnosis from DOR to over to SASE. Counseling, psychology services. Some of our rebounders go through there. Then you got to get tested for different things as a student. You got access to the health department here. So here we have more student dorms for the most part. It was like Greek life. Here's Viejas Arena. This is where
the house that AG built.
This is where the SDSU basketball team plays. And this is where they have a lot of concerts. And as a student, actually, you get a free ticket for every game for the most part. They'll come in straight to your email. Just claim your free ticket and get to come in and watch the game. Same thing with football, and I'm pretty sure with other sports as well. This one is huge. You got basketball courts inside. You got all kinds of machines. Volleyball, kinds of weight, everything.
We gotta hit up the homie Tavo to get us tickets.
Probably got some. Oh yes, because I know as staff I get all kinds of discounts. I just don't use them all.
Yeah.
Here we go, Associated Students Rec Center. This is the main gym. The new gym. Yeah, so this is the main gym, goes all the way around. Yeah, I just went there Tuesday. Yeah, spent the whole day in there. Like two Tuesdays ago. I was there when I was 19 years old. In a state prison. Walked back right onto it was a trip. My homeboy was there. Yeah, there was another dude that was there. I was with him at Ironwood, but he returned. He went up to Centinela. The week before last Christmas, I spent 14 years at Ironwood, and we hit all 4 yards, but the C yard, Charlie yard is the one I was at, and yeah, we were in the gym. There was about 35 of us, 4 more lifers. We walked back in. We were all there on that yard, and we spoke to the fellas. Talked to them. We were sharing our experience, shared what we had going on.
Wow, bro.
And there was a lot of individuals that were still there. As a matter of fact, this Sunday, when I went there, there was a homie. He had just gotten granted parole. And I knew him from years back. This Sunday, when I'm supposed to drive up about an hour and a half north of San Diego, a lot of them are going to get together, and it's a little family event. I haven't seen none of these individuals since they've been released. So I'm going to spend the Sunday together. So this is one of those things like when we're walking through these buildings like a little kid. You know, you're going through the alleyway, going through the empty lots, hiding behind a store. Same thing here. You figure your way out how to be efficient, how to cut corners. And it's going to be essential you become a student here, because sometimes some of these classes, there's some of these buildings where you got to go all the way around if you don't know your way. So like right now what we're doing, we're cutting through some of the buildings, get straight to where we want to go to. Nah, here there has been, I mean, because I'm a part of that life, I kind of understand what's going on. But for the most part here, dude, it's like people are on a different trip. Is there certain politics that are played? Yeah, there is. But they're kind of kept under the surface, and they're really stayed amongst that person. Whatever the person's going through, he or she kind of keeps it to him or herself. You know, obviously stuff that goes on inside prison, you know, things are aware. People have certain reputations. People are part of certain gangs that are well known. So, you know, things are, I don't want to say public information, but, you know, things going on. And but for the most part here, dude, by the time you get here, there's a different sense of purpose already. And I guess too, the leadership, you know, I think for the most part, students know I share my story. They know what I'm about. So, and I'm really focused on us as advancing as one, regarding your affiliation, regardless of what you didn't do. Most of us, you know, we want a better quality of life. We want to, you know, take care of our kids and, you know, get on our feet. But, you know, there hasn't been any major issues regarding stuff like that, like enemies, and there's people here from different parts of town, but for the most part they're all cordial with each other. They don't, again, we're for the most part very much mature. We're in our 30s, 40s already, you know, and we have, you know, pretty much from every set you could think of. So you want to see the turtles? This is what we call Turtle Pond. It's actually pretty relaxing. You come over here. I've actually taken a few naps. I know you're not supposed to sleep on the yard, but come and sleep. Come right there in the rocks. The fish. For the most part, people come here, you know. And this is actually, we have events here in this area. Turtle over there. I actually come over here to this little area, kind of get, you know, some little time off, sometimes get away from everything, get a little sense of peace, relaxing. Again, it's that kind of get some kind of clarity. Sometimes we're going through something, kind of recollect our thoughts. You know, for me it was you know, a lot of it has to do with my mental health. You know, I was single cell for 16 years, lived by myself. And now, you know, even though I've been almost out 4 years, you know, sometimes being around people gets to me. Sometimes the demands of work, you know, the pressure, you know, sometimes it gets the best of me. And I usually come over here, just sit down somewhere. Sometimes even just take a nap, sit down on the bench and just kind of doze off for 5-10 minutes. But you just kind of got to find your place around here. The reality is mental health is real for a lot of us that were incarcerated. You know, we could deny it, and I know there's a social stigma. We don't want to come off as weak, of it, that, you acknowledging it, but the reality is we gotta address it. You know, I don't take drugs, I don't take medications. You know, being years of inside, I learned how to cope with it for the most part. Learned about what was going on with me, what my disabilities are. But I didn't realize how severe they were, not until I stepped foot out, not until I came back home. It hit me bad. I didn't realize how. We used to call it lack of motivation. Reality is it was depression. That's what I had going on. I haven't been diagnosed with PTSD, but all the symptoms are there. You know, it's like I said, hypervigilance. I focus in on stuff. You know, I'm very rigid with my thoughts. I'm still working on that. Creates problems sometimes with people that I'm around. But you know, I am aware of it. My first and second, third responses to anything, any kind of trigger, any kind of stimulus, they're usually all bad. It's relapsing thoughts, all bad. But for the most part, my fourth, fifth, sixth thought, that's where I catch myself. That's how I respond. I've learned that, you know, will I ever be cured or whatever I have going on? Nah, I don't think so. But I am in control how I respond. So again, my fourth, fifth response is it's how I calm myself down and try to make sense of what I'm feeling. So it's like this is where some of the places I go to right here. One of those nice little areas, quiet. Like playing right through somebody's alleyway. So here we go, and this is the Prison Arts Collective. So there's a program. Hello, good morning.
Hey, Tavo.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise, yeah.
How's it going?
Going well, just walking doing a little tour of the campus. Talking about SDSU and Project Rebound, some of the collaborations we have, and the registration, the application process, and resources on campus, off campus.
Love it.
So I wanted to touch up on Prison Arts Collectives, what goes on in here, the work they do from out here into incarceration, healing through arts. And Ann Buckley, this is the director.
So yeah, I am an associate dean here at the College of Professional Studies and Fine Arts. I'm professor in art and design and the founder and director of Prison Arts Collective. And this is our amazing on-campus team, and we have a lot of teams throughout the state. And essentially we provide transformative arts programming to people who are incarcerated throughout California, and I think it's now up to 12 prisons. This is our 10-year anniversary, and we made connections between university faculty and students and artists inside. We provide multidisciplinary arts classes as well as a comprehensive facilitator training. So we have a number of peer facilitators, which is what Carlo and I are working right now, is creating some arts resources for our teachers inside the institutions that teach regular classes, as well as our outside teachers. Welcome, Tavo.
And Andy's actually the founder of the bachelor's program in Centennial State Prison, SDSU, the bachelor's program. And actually, in a couple of weeks, I should be helping out in part of the orientation process, going into Centennial State Prison, where I was actually at when I was 19 years old. So to close off, again, my name is Tavo Vega. I'm the outreach coordinator here at Project Rebound. I just want to say, there's nothing special about me, nothing. I think what sets me apart from before to now is I've really dedicated myself. I understand what I want. I'm disciplined. I persevered. I'm determined. But again, there's nothing really special anybody can do. You know, from being a high school dropout, sitting in solitary confinement for a few years, with a judge and the prosecutor talking about possibly seeking the death penalty. Here I am now. You know, got my undergrad here at SDSU, and now I'm in the master's program, clinical rehabilitation and mental health. And I'm actually looking for a PhD program now.
Yo, shout out to Project Rebound
You can do it.
San Diego State.
Just like I did.
Fire interviews,
Thank you.
man. Thank you for the insight and the wisdom. It was really deep. Shout out to all of you who participated. Mad love. Check this video out. Like it. Subscribe. Share this content. Education is important. If people don't know that these resources are out there for them, How can they take advantage of them? Don't be somebody that's holding somebody back. Let people know. Education, education, education. But promise me this. Don't you ever let a judge take your future from you. Mom.
What's good? You could do what you like. Don't let the judge take that from you.